All right, and we're live. First, for the folks watching at home, it's peak allergy season, so bear with me tonight. You will hopefully not hear any of that, but I can only get so far off camera every time I have to sneeze. So we'll see how it goes. But anywho, last time on A Crown of Cold Iron, our party is in a period of relative calm and peace. You all have been sort of running from one fire to the next for, geez, 6 or 7 months in game. It's been a very sort of climactic period. And now that you've returned from your first foray into Fairy, things have kind of mellowed. The looming threat of Cawthorn, Allen, Tar, and Smith, the Fey Feline legal team, has been declawed for now. You all have rescued Cyrus's mentor, Mort, from Fairy. You have tracked down the missing humans. You have thwarted Oryx's Fey patron. And by thwart, I mean you killed him in cold blood and left him in a river.
Pretty harsh like that.
It's not
And
murder if you're an adventurer.
he dropped loot. If he wasn't supposed to be murdered, why was there loot? And finally, the party has been able to sort of dig into some of their roots. Cyrus learning more about the Tuatha and Mort's long history with the city. Oric delving into his own mind to start to unpack his new identity as the incarnation, uh, the an iteration of Bran the Raven King, an ancient king of Arlen, the nation in which Queensborough sits. And finally, Lexi has been hitting the books. Not a usual activity for barbarians, but actually stinking nailed some rolls last session, studying away in the Blackthorn archives, and made some pretty big revelations about her own backstory, learning more about what the Hero Light is, why this power has chosen her and others, and very learned some very personal aspects of it, including a strange thing that we have not gotten to unpack yet, which is that your the figure that you have known as Lou might be something unusual, which you discovered looking back through some previous photos, which were revealed to be pressed with something like a ring of seeming, which you were able to pierce through with your new abilities. So the floor is
That
kind of
nat 20.
open. Yeah, that nat 20 was clutch. You were going to get something, but that was the time to get a nat 20.
Yep.
So the floor is kind of open. Cyrus has mentioned tracking down more about Alan Blake. Mort is still wanting to catch up with Oric for a walk through the historic Raven King's palace. And there was also some thought of tracking down the mysterious figure from Lady Bryn's vision. What's on the docket? Do y'all want to do something together? Is there a solo mission? What are y'all feeling?
Kind of up for anything at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Field trip.
yeah. Road trip.
All right, sorry, I coughed really loud. Where do you want to go?
I don't know.
Oh, just field trip as an idea
Yeah,
collectively.
field
Field
trip as
trip.
an idea because you had said go as individuals or go together. And
Yeah.
I think right now Lexi's kind of satisfied in what she's found. So, yeah, the closest, I was gonna say, feel like the only thread she might be interested in is who the mysterious person is. Although she would certainly like have fun going with Mort and Auric to the palace.
be tourists for a day.
Lexi is probably somebody who's broken into a few locked off buildings in her life. So
We're not breaking in, we're touring.
I know we're touring, but I'm just saying, like old haunted places, kind of a thing for Lexi, you know?
Besides, technically, it's my house.
Exactly. See, we're not breaking and entering.
I guess we also need to look and see. You all have a bit of a hoard to unpack.
Yeah, we do.
Gonna take some notes on that. All right, so somebody pick a destination.
Palace.
Palace.
All right, so we're in a bit of a wibbly wobbly timescape. We've established that Cyrus's dinner with Mort and the Mort's murder, we might call it. That was the sort of first thing when you all returned. Followed, maybe, I think we said a week or so later by Oryx's mental explorations. And then Lexi a little bit behind that after having sort of checked in on the bar and kind of gotten settled back in. So, Oryx, what has been your response to Mort's somewhat insistent requests for this meeting?
At first, putting it on the calendar, and then after that, dude, it's on the calendar. Dude, leave me alone.
I got other stuff to do, dude.
I just woke up after having a dreamscape.
And just for fun, is there anything Oryx would want to try and recall about Mort?
I think that's probably part of what this conversation was meant to be. So, who are you exactly?
How are we related?
All right. So, you all convene at the site of the historic Raven King's Palace. You all have kind of been here before, specifically the strange extra-dimensional... it's hard to say which is the true Raven King's Palace. The space that you were in before was definitely sort of a warped space, sort of compressed and stretched and sort of wrapped around itself. But in some ways, the things that it contained perhaps seemed like more important, more real aspects of the place that were perhaps squirreled away somehow, leaving perhaps a more sort of sterile historical room in its place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Cyrus, you've definitely been here on like a tour as a child.
It was a mandatory school function for a certain grade level.
And or like I get the feeling that Cyrus's mom is also one of those like we're going to do historical study trips on the weekends.
Yep. I think maybe like your dad was always trying to like sneak fun things in on the sly, as much for him as for you.
Mom was not having it.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, the historical Raven Palace, that's great, but also there's a Lego store around the corner, that sort of thing. So yeah, it is very touristy. It is functionally a museum. There are a lot of you see places actually where information is being rapidly updated. So there's information on like posters and a lot of like stands because they don't want to attach things like to the wall. But it's like, a day in the life of a 5th century peasant in the city of Queensboro. Or it's like a picture of like Bran on a coin, and it's like, who was the Raven Prince? Man, I got narrator voice today.
Mm-hmm.
But all of you would notice this, that a lot of this information is in the process of being changed and updated. Like, things are like actively being like taken down, and in some places there's like a piece of printer paper like taped over something that's like recent historical surveys have suggested that this information might no longer be considered accurate. Please bear with us as we update.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of people here. This is probably, since we've been talking about school groups, this is probably like a Tuesday afternoon. And so there are literally like busfuls of children wandering around. For them, it's fairly boring. It's on the outside, castle sounds cool, but then they realize it's a lot of like, this is a bedroom, this is a kitchen, this is another bedroom. Just a lot of sort of repetition. This particular palace is, so there's 3 major palaces in this area. There is the palace of, and they use palace very generously. There's the palace of of Arlen, the first king, and it's basically like a fort on a hill. There is the final palace, which was sort of the residence of the last king before the sort of Republic era of Queensboro began. And appropriately, the Raven King's palace kind of fell in between. Everyone give me a history check. And no, actually, Oric, you wouldn't have anything to help you on this. It's just a history check.
Ooh, hiss.
I was about to give you advantage, and then I was like, this is definitionally something you would not have any special insight into.
Lexi did not pay attention in history.
Wait. It showed a 10 on the face, and it's saying my +4 gives me 12. What? Shenaniganery.
I'll say mine reads an 8, but
Yeah. Well, the face of the virtual die was definitely a 10.
But that's not what the computer
That's
heard.
not what the computer read.
this kind of works though. Lexi is not particular, like we've just established. Lexi's not actually from here. She's lived here a long time, but like as an adult, unless you got like family in town, how often are you going to the historical sites?
Yeah.
Especially when your friends are people like Tyler. Like
Yeah, Tyler's not into that kind of thing.
you know all the fight clubs, but you have maybe never been inside this place.
Other than that one time that we went in the other place.
Yes. So there is definitely something immediately familiar. Now, I'll say this is a historical tidbit, and you'll see, Oric, why you would not necessarily know this. This place was considered to have a bad vibe. This palace was abandoned pretty much as quick as possible after the Raven King died. Within like 100 years, they had finished construction on a new palace. And there was a lot of talk of like, it's in honor of our fallen king, blah, blah, blah. And the historians were conjecturing like, well, how did he really die? What does it mean that they created this story, this this hagiographic account of their king dying in a war with fairies. And of course, now all those have signs over them, like X'd out. But yeah, there was a bad vibe here. And so they tried to get out of here as quick as possible. You all would guess that this is probably a result of all the lingering magic here. Especially the stuff in sort of the extra dimensional space. It's possible that that space had not been sort of shunted out of reality yet, or it's possible that it had and it has a tendency to leak. That maybe took a while to stop. So you recognize essentially where you are. The proportions are different. The hallways don't lead to the same places. This building is much more grand and symmetrical. And Oric, you definitely recognize, again, this is your third version of this palace. So you're very familiar with the overall aesthetic.
Yes.
Everybody give me a perception check, and Cyrus can make it with advantage.
Eight.
Crit.
Yeah, you did.
Ugh. I just got a nat 1 on that con check.
22.
All right. This is, again, sometimes the dice are just like, yeah.
This checks out.
So you all are kind of waiting awkwardly for a minute. And I think maybe at like the same time, Lexi, you see Cyrus and Oric do this. You all are sort of mid-conversation, and they both suddenly kind of turn and look oddly at like a shadow under a stairwell or something. And then like half a second before Mort walks out of it. So Mort just sort of appears. Mort is back to his sort of hyper nondescript appearance. If you had to guess, he looks like he works in an office somewhere, doing something that like is adjacent to a job that you're familiar with, but they would insist that it's not that. Like a financial investment expert instead of like a banker or a accountant. But there is a very awkward moment where Mort gives a little bit of a bow as he walks up. And it is just overt enough that a couple people around you are like,
Oh, so I did roll earlier evens and odds to figure out whether I was going to be human or dragon. But then you told me there were school groups. I'm like, no, I'm going to be dragon.
So, that makes some things interesting. We'll circle back to that. So
Uh-oh.
you're already drawing a little bit of attention, and Mort bowing is like a lot extra. There is now like a lot of interest in like, what is happening over here? At this point, you're not the only fairy in this place, but you're still maybe one of like, you could count them on one hand.
Mm.
And that's become more common. Like, like if you're out on the streets now, if you just if you survey a random crowd of people, you might pick out a couple of fae, where before it was kind of rare. But yeah, so you all have gathered this strange attention, and Mort, yeah, definitely has a weird vibe here. he sort of uh, it's not quite a whisper, but it's a little bit quieter than his actions. And he almost chokes up a little. And he says, in greetings, he just says, my king.
Yeah, hi.
Um, he's definitely very focused on you, like trying to sort of see something. You all are probably more aware. There are a lot of people paying attention now. You're sort of in like still sort of in the entryway, the sort of great hall, open space just inside. Because of the open space, it's been used as sort of the welcome center. Like a kiosk has been set in the middle, and there's lots of extra information in here. The gift shop is actually not inside; it's like around the corner in a separate building. But yeah, there's definitely like you were already getting some like huh from the children, and now it's like a lot of interest.
Cyrus might was like elbow Mort. Be like, maybe
Knock it off, dude.
we need to be a little more discreet. Less people, less eyes.
Mort sort of nods in agreement, but also when you sort of elbow Mort, you're trying to do it gently. It's like elbowing a concrete wall. Mort looks sort of healthy again, has sort of filled back in, and it's not as easy to see in sort of his mundane look. But yeah, you kind of get the impression that Mort is very tough to scratch. And he says, yes, let's let's go to your study."
Sure.
And he like just sort of sets off and expects that you know where you're going.
Exactly where I'm going. Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's a very boring display in there.
hmm
You do find you do know where you're going. That vast sea of Brand's memory, you haven't sort of fully integrated all of it, but when you're prompted, you can reach out and grab what you want to know. And as you walk along, there is a weird sense of deja vu. A lot of it for Auric, but Cyrus, you also get kind of like a weird secondhand deja vu here. It's happened once or twice before, but the more powerful you've become, the more you have occasionally brushed up against almost like a genetic memory, if magic can be said to have genetics. So you also have sort of a weird deja vu moment of like walking next to Auric down this hallway, but Auric isn't Auric. And Lexi, this place just hums to you. Like this is. It's like if Luz is humming the root of a chord, this is some interval up from that. You can hear the harmony between them. This place is also somehow deeply significant to the power that you're carrying around. So you sort of stride through these hallways. Auric, you know this place now. And it's like it's not there until you think about it. But as you sort of walk, you just reflexively know, like, okay, we're about to take a right at this intersection. We're about to go here. Like, you don't even have to see the signs. You don't have to see the maps. You just know where you're going. Mort is... As you walk, Mort is sort of hitting you with questions. I'll let you kind of parse out how you feel about them. But is asking you about, like, oh, do you remember when this or that? Or, Sir So-and-so lived in this room. Remember how he always drank too much at the feasts, and it's sort of offering these reminiscences as you travel. How does that hit Auric?
I think it hits in two different ways because of the two different personalities. The more recent Auric is like, no, wait, yes, but I shouldn't. This is weird. And then in the back of the head, there's Bran saying, yes, and I hated that.
Yeah, it is this weird duality of, like, you shouldn't know, but as soon as he says it, you know. Almost like his questions are shining a spotlight around a dark room, and as soon as the question alights on something, you can see it. So he keeps asking these questions, and when he said the study, Cyrus and Lexi would probably not immediately see anything odd about that. Auric, you realize there's something... It doesn't strike you until you sort of get up to the study. The study is a high room off of a tower. And as you get close, there is a sign on the wall, like a big poster, and it's conjecturing about what happened in this hallway. Because as you look, you see a door has been removed. You don't know if it happened recently or if it was historical, but there are impact marks along the walls here where stones are damaged, and there is a massive blackened area, like a huge fire sort of swept up this hallway, not too far. And you realize this is the opposite side of that door that was the last of Bran's memories.
Did I do that?
Well,
oh shoot! I think I did that.
Well, you recall it was Mort and the Blackthorn who did this.
Right, trying to get in.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that, but I kind of did that.
There's a mood here as soon as you sort of get close. Give me an insight check. And everybody can do this, and I feel like I'm picking on Lexi, but Auric and Cyrus can do it with advantage.
I mean,
Yeah.
8.
All right. Yeah, that sort of tracks. Um, Auric and Cyrus, you both put this together. Mort is not referring to Auric as Auric, either like literally directly, but also just the way that he's referencing these things, the way that he is sort of carrying on the conversation. Mort is talking to Bran. And that in some ways is odd. Um, when you all get up to this door, you can't actually go into the study. It's very sort of historical room. They've got like the little like velvet rope, and you can see like little like signs in here pointing out different belongings and their significance. You do see one sign next to the window with an arrow pointing out, and it's like mysterious impact marks on stones outside of this chamber. And you remember the sound of ravens crashing into this tower. And Mort has quit referencing and telling stories and reminiscing and has just become very, very quiet.
I feel like somehow it's a very brand thing to let the silence go on like 5 beats beyond what's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Uh, Auric, I think this is one of the first moments since you came out of this memory chamber where the there is continuity between you and Bran. Bran is you with a different set of experiences, but there is a little bit of something pushing up from Bran in this moment. And Mort, without looking at you, just sort of staring through the door out the window, and just says very quietly, "Why did you do it?"
There was no choice.
There was no choice. The Raven King, the wielder of the Lady's Grey Fire, the most powerful human sorcerer who has ever lived, and there was no choice.
Surely you of all people know how tightly power can bind someone.
You had warriors that would have fought for you. You had armies. You had kingdoms ready to march to war under your banner. Ready to die for it. And you died alone in this room. We would have fought with you.
I know.
Then why did you put us on the other side of the door?
Because you would have fought.
As this exchange passes, there is a slight disassociation from this place. And it's not exactly the same feel, but it's something very close to a demand. You feel this place attaching to somewhere else, a different significance, a different aesthetic. And the Queensboro outside the window dissolves. You see the other buildings, the concrete and steel and glass in the distance, sort of waver. And then you see villages and forests and hills stretched out. And even though it was bright outside, out the window it's now growing dim. You can feel a pressure coming from Mort. And you can hear that sound of ravens outside. And Cyrus, you feel this too. When Mort makes this connection, something in you is dragged along. But you're stronger now than you used to be. 6 months ago, you would have been swept up in these things that he's feeling. But now they're like the distant end of a line. And you can feel the vibration, but it doesn't shake you fully. And Lexi, even without these connections, your hero light starts to spark around you, sheltering you from this press of power. Mort's form wavers a little bit. And you see, very much like you all have seen with Cyrus in the past, Mort is going a little bit gray. And his dark, sleek hair is looking a little bit more like feathers. It's not rampant, it's not out of control, but you can feel something vast and dark pressing up against incredibly harsh boundaries inside of him. And he just breathes hard for a few moments.
Side note, do we know? I can't remember if Auric has shared the like journey through selves bit. Like, do we know? Do Cyrus and Lexi have any idea what choice Auric, what the choice is that we're talking about?
Because Rachel doesn't.
Hmm.
You think you would have told us?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because I mean, Oric woke up like a week later, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, once Vela finally let him go, would he have thought to tell you?
Would he have had time to tell you?
Well, and with how important this story is, you all would have put together a little bit of this.
Yeah.
The official record, the official record of events has Bran dying mysteriously at the end of some huge conflict, and this would be like major, like history that kids would have to learn in school. Combined with some of the things you all know now, you would have a guess about some of this. But certainly the fact that Auric knows it in this intimate way, that's up to you.
I think I probably would have hit the
highlights.
major highlights. Yeah. So I might not have gone through in detail about what happened in this room, but that it happened.
All right, so to jump back into Steve from it. So Mort's going gray.
It doesn't seem like he's going to lose himself the same way that you did.
Okay.
But Auric, you know what he's talking about. And Cyrus, you have at least the outline of it. But it is being well colored in by this. Well, give me an insight check with advantage. We'll see how much you pull out of this.
Two 18s.
All right. The most basic level is just this powerful sense of betrayal. A little bit below that, almost sort of propping it up, are feelings of shame and regret, this overpowering sense of, if only I had done this or that. But with a 19, going down just a little bit further, Cyrus, you feel this like it's almost like finding in this sort of dark gray space of Mort's power. It's like suddenly finding something that is even darker still. Like picking out a splash of a even blacker paint on black. But because you kind of know in some way the shape of Mort's thoughts and feelings through this connection that you have, you're able to sort of trace this thread that runs out past Mort. In a very similar way to the way that you're connected to Mort, Mort is connected to something else. But that connection is it's grown thin, but you can tell that it was once a profound connection, but one across a vast distance. But there is almost something else bleeding into Mort's feelings here.
I think the question on Cyrus's mind is like, well, so it didn't it didn't last. Do we need to do it again?
Mort is like, absolutely not.
Is Cyrus asking that out loud?
Yeah.
Mort has been really quiet since this last thing that he said. He says, "It was never supposed to be done like this. You were supposed to win. It was going to be safe. It was going to be over."
It was going to be slaughter.
That's mortal existence. Things live and things die, and you hope that they die for a good reason. As Mort says this, Mort looks alien to an extent. And I'm not just talking about going gray or this sort of blackness, but there is a sense that Mort is something distant and strange on some fundamental level. Mort is not human. Mort does not look at this the same way.
I think not having an answer for Mort, I just changed the topic entirely. Or perhaps it's not a topic change. Who is she to you?
Mort looks sad when you ask this. You're not really him, are you?
Only in a sense.
The lady is to me much as she is to you. A source, a patron, a benefactor. But on a magnitude that I suppose you have no frame of reference for. And Cyrus, this triggers something for you. You have been paying more attention to these scars that Mort has. These scars that are hidden most of the time. And based on the conversations you had, you have put some things together about them. In a way, each of you, Alex and Sana and you, and who knows who or what else, in some way you were carved from Mort. You were sheared off of him in a metaphysical sense. And for just a second, you see this whole sort of tapestry, this interconnected web. And it's not just the three of you, but it's also your coat and your daggers, your blades. It's Sana's coat. It's all of the things that you found in the Raven Palace, all sort of interconnected. And in some important way, they all used to be a part of Mort. And then following that same thread that you felt before, your vision is sort of exploded outward, and you see how Mort himself is a sliver of this vast, huge thing. This presence that is, it fills up the sky in this sort of metaphysical reckoning. And I think maybe for the first time in that moment, you brush up against the lady's power in a way that you haven't before. You're able to look past Mort to the thing beyond him. I think Mort knows that there's been this moment of sort of unintentional communication. And he looks at you, Cyrus, for a moment before he turns back. She is everything. Auric, this stirs a memory. Bran has made his speech at his father's funeral. And you saw the moment of quiet desperation afterwards. Bran is growing in power, growing in wisdom and intellect and strength, but he is still a very, very young man. And it's not long after that the lady appears, and Mort is presented to you in perhaps more than one sense of the word. Bran is introduced to this warrior who towers over him, this pale giant. And the lady says, "This is Mort, one of my finest servants, my finest warriors. He is a general, and a young king needs his generals. He will guard you and guide you and keep you safe. And that's about all she is able to say before she starts to sort of dissipate and fade away, leaving the young Bran with this towering giant. And the memory sort of slips into montage. It's awkward. It's awkward for quite a while. But slowly it starts to change. It's Mort who helps to push Bran to train and to grow, to become a better warrior, a better tactician, a greater master of magic. It's Mort who, simply by looming and exerting his aura, cows the other generals and ensures that all of them will follow this boy king. And it softens a little over time. You see Bran staring longingly up at a fruit high in the bough of a tree and giving Mort a plaintive look. And Mort sighs deeply and then leaps. And about halfway up, as gravity starts to exert itself, there's a flickering moment and a flapping of wings, and then it passes, but Mort is pressing up through the air and comes down with a fruit. And it continues. A sword comes slashing down at the back of this young king, and it's caught Not not on these small blades that you have seen Cyrus use, but on a massive black greatsword, nearly the size of the young Brand's body. And in the same gesture, the same motion of catching it, there is a backhand slice that shears the attacker and two more in half. And these moments sort of roll and intertwine. And you see this connection. This connection that's both felt and distant. There is a strand that connects the two of you. Not like any of the others. It started as something given, but it became more over time. Not just because he was commanded. Is there anything else you all want to say to Mort?
I think in the awkward silence, I cast Mage Hand and correct some of the signs inside the room.
That's quite a.
I think seeing that there doesn't seem to be much more to be said in this moment, the pressure that Mort is giving off sort of twists and warps just a little. And just for a second, the doorway passes into a room with no signs, with no velvet rope. And you realize it is the echo of this place down below in that other space. And Mort steps through the door, and you don't even see him enter the room. He just steps through the doorway, and it's almost like a curtain, and he's gone. Leaving you all standing at the top of this tower with a small bevy of children on an international educational tour accumulating behind you with little like flags coming off of their backpacks and their like matching school uniforms, and one of them maybe coming up to like just above your waist, sort of gently tugs at you a little and says, excuse me, are you may we see the room?
Yeah, sure. Knock yourself out.
And you all are politely and gently, but sort of pressed to the sides as this gaggle of school children floods in, all kind of careening over each other to look more deeply into the room.
It kind of gives Cyrus and Lexi a look as if to say, that was heavy.
Yeah. Dude.
Mort doesn't really do light.
You'd think I would have remembered that.
Not his vibe.
Once upon a time, I could do the same.
You do remember an era where Mort started to soften a little, but the Blackthorn took delight in pranking the two of you.
Oh Lord.
With the access to some of the most powerful human wizardry, all of the accumulated human wisdom and knowledge of magic, and just little pranks. And you just see a cascade of them, of like Mort going to draw his two short swords, and they're like glued into the scabbards. And he has to like fist fight his way through this crowd of elves.
Oh goodness.
And then Mort does the sort of huge Great Raven transformation, but there's like a weird like staticky flicker, and for the first minute, all of his feathers are like bright yellow, and you just see this cascade of little things, and some still perhaps slightly unintegrated aspect of Bran smirks a little.
Stop at a random door and open it up. They disenchanted the privy.
All right. Anything else in the Raven Palace?
I think on the way out, just for no apparent reason, I switch over to human form.
Because you can.
That's a very good call. Make a everybody make a perception check as you all are leaving.
I was gonna laugh if it was a 1, and I had no idea why that was a good idea.
Oh, it was so close to being a 16. And just rolled over to the 8.
So I guess since there's just been a pattern here, what has been Lexi's distraction through all of this?
You know, in thinking about it, Lexi's never been here before. You know, she probably, unless she like took a tour as a kid, you know, and she didn't grow up here, she really hasn't been here. And there's a lot of noise because there's a lot of kids.
So
And that's hard to focus on.
so some genuine tourism vibes,
Yeah.
a little bit of like crowded, loud public space energy. Auric and Cyrus, both of you notice as you all step out, there is about a minute or two after you step out. We'll say Auric, you changed like somewhere like just around a corner or something, and you all have just a moment to sort of glance back and catch a man and a woman. The woman was sort of dark skin and sort of tight, short, curly hair, and a man who strikes you as vaguely familiar. And with a 24, was that also a nat 20?
Yep.
2 nat 20s. You even see they have matching tattoos. And the tattoo is of a crown with 3 feathers sort of strung through it, like through sort of the empty space. These guys, these two seem like they were watching for you all, or at least they noticed Auric in some important way. That is a Kingsguard tattoo.
Where on their body is the tattoo? Like
Oh,
arm?
it's just like on their arm.
Okay.
And I'll say this too. It looks different from the mark that you all have. But it looks close enough that it almost looks like someone has seen those somewhere and has copied them in a similar but not exact style.
Well, that was entirely serendipitous.
So are they doing anything now, or they were just like,
No, so they saw a weird guy make a scene with a weird looking fae in the Raven Palace of all places. And it seems like they were waiting for you all to come back out for some purpose. But they were looking specifically for Auric, and when they did not see him.
yeah.
I'm gonna get just close enough and cast minor illusion.
What are you minor illusioning?
I want them to hear a voice saying, "He went that way."
Oh, goodness. All right, let's get a stat block going. Let's see. Oops. I should specify that they are monsters. They are not super fancy. We're going to call them elite guards, which is a little bit probably better than they deserve, but why is there no dice screen roller? Anyway, here we go. Oof. What is your spell save DC?
17.
They don't turn off in that direction. They turn and look for whoever is causing this sound.
Good job. We about to start a fight.
Oh, we in public. I ain't doing nothing.
Is there anything else y'all want to do to torment these two?
No, that's too close range. That's not happening. So they're just kind of standing around in the big open space by the entrance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people moving around. They're kind of like by the door and just kind of doing the trying to pick Auric out of the crowd, which shouldn't be that hard, to be honest.
Shouldn't be.
Except
I mean, I figured there are two options. We can try and figure out what they're doing, or we can just torment them.
It's up to you all.
I'm content to just walk past.
same.
All right.
I'm not going to go out of my way, but if we get within 10 feet of them, I'm going to cast Prestidigitation and just cover up one of their tattoos.
Give me what are the components on prestidigitation?
Verbal and somatic.
So give me a sleight of hand check.
Yep. Oh, that was almost a one.
All right,
Oh, Lord.
just for fun, let's see how they do.
I'm playing with fire here.
They do not notice. You are able to sort of walk past, and I will say to lean into Lexi's world a little. Lexi, give us a perception check with advantage.
22.
Nice.
Nice. These two are flickering with hero light. Not to the point where it would be visible to, like, if they're just walking around, but to you, it's very apparent.
Okay.
You also gather that they might have noticed you, except that you are several magnitudes higher up this chart than they are.
Okay.
All right. So you leave the Raven Palace behind. What do you all want to do now?
Gift shop.
You hit up the gift shop,
Snow globes.
and this has got to be a weird experience. There's like stuff with your face on it. Actually, to the point where when you walk in, there's like a little old lady. I don't remember my made up countries. She would be of sort of Asian descent in our world, and she's got her glasses on. Her hair is a little bit on the gray side, kind of mounded up on her head, and she like as you walk in, and you realize as you walk in, there's like a poster of like an artist sketch of Bran on the wall, like right on the inside to the side of the door. And so as you walk in, there is your gray-haired twin in a fairly good likeness, like right there.
Yo.
And she's like, "Is this one of those cosplay things?"
No, you just have one of those faces.
One of those historical reenactors?
No, the hair's all wrong.
And she just kind of like, huh. But yeah, this is a weird opportunity because there are like posters and snow globes and T-shirts and things that like have your face on them.
Yup. That's not creepy at all.
I think also maybe Cyrus, there's a little bit of discomfort. There are like mascot ravens all around this room. Like little plushes, like ornaments for holidays. There's like a inflatable yard decoration, a little like statue to like put in your bushes out front for good luck or something.
I guess.
Just all over the place.
So you know how a lot of tourist places will let you send postcards from the gift shop? I'm buying a postcard with my face on it and sending it to Vela.
We kind of fast forward here, and we just catch a little glimpse of Vela, like Barnabas delivers her mail, and she like sifts through and just like flings things at him, and then she holds it up and looks at it, and then she looks at the back, and she just swears. You get a text message that's just like caps lock, number line, slam all the way across. All right, so you hit up the gift shop.
Too many important things here.
Yep. So what else is on the list?
Blake was definitely on the list, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Blake
although I
and
don't.
the mystery fighter.
Yeah, I feel like I'm at a dead end with Blake. Like I just don't.
Right.
I don't understand where to go or.
Well, it sounds like whoever is hiding him is probably doing so magically, so
Mhm.
Yeah. Or maybe I think the clue from last time was he might not even be in Greensboro. He might be
Other
in
side of the
Gary or
country.
somewhere else. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
so
I will say this to give you another piece in relation to your previous adventures. There are a limited number of gates. If Blake has gone through one of them, that's not an infinite number of things to hunt down.
Does Lady Bryn still owe us a favor?
Did you say Marta?
Lady Bryn.
Oh, Lady Brand. I feel like your favor column is a little bit thrown up in the air. Because on the one hand,
I think we spent a decent amount of it
Right.
in the boardroom, not
Yeah.
getting slammed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you all would know, like this, like we said, this has been on the news. Like, the embassy is essentially under media and political and
Right.
even like low grade like actual siege right now, directly as a result of you all coming back with these kids.
Yep.
That being said, I think she probably would know that that's like not your fault per se, and especially if it's something relevant, she might still be helpful.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't even necessarily need to be Lady Bryn. You know, security forces would probably be able to let us know if someone matching Blake's description has gone through any official gates.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so I think I might be more curious and checking in with Tyler about our mystery man.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think we will set hitting up Tyler next time. Um, we'll say a little more time has sort of crept along here. Um, this is also a time where, kind of in the backdrop of this, like Auric, you're probably able to take some cases. Cyrus, you're able to do a little bit of your freelance work. Lexi, you're able to sort of run the bar. And probably your research in the archives is not like a 1 day thing. That
Right.
probably stretches out over like weeks and weeks.
Right.
So time sort of rolls on a little bit. And much like last week, we're going to end with a little bit of a third person omniscient scene.
Okay.
It is. It's a dark back alley somewhere in a not great part of town. Zooming way back up on my geography here. Probably somewhere in Falmouth. Maybe not terribly far from Lou's or from Auric's apartment, but in a dark alley where no reasonable person should be at this hour of night. There is a young blonde-haired man. I say man, teenager. And he has seated himself on like a sturdy cardboard box and is chomping into what is almost certainly like something from like a sketchy late night food truck, or maybe even like a gas station, something that, like, again, most people would know not to eat. But he's sitting there and he's sharing bites back and forth with this massive golden brown hound that is roughly the size of a small bear. They're trading bites back and forth, and sort of our perspective is far enough back that you can see the boy is talking to someone. You can see sort of nodding and chatting. And there is a street light out on the street that's sort of casting just a little bit of light into this alley. It's just enough to faintly outline this boy and this dog. But it doesn't seem to bother either of them. They don't seem to be struggling to see. But the scant amount of light there is suddenly blocked. A handful of rough individuals set themselves at the end of the alley. And again, we're at a distance. They seem to be saying something. The teenager sort of says something flippant back. You do notice the clothing has become even more strange than last time. It very much looks like someone who is like buying things from like tourist gift shops and just like swapping pieces every time he goes in somewhere. But you see they start to draw weapons. A knife here and there. One of them has what looks like just sort of a cruddy bat. But one of them pulls out an actual gun. And they're still talking, and the one with the gun seems like they're the leader, and they're sort of gesticulating with it. And the teen is just sort of smiling and nodding and responding in a very calm way. And this is making them angrier and angrier. And the man with the gun suddenly levels it, and he realizes the dog is gone. Now, standing behind this man with the gun, you can just see sort of backlit the silhouette of a massive young man. Not just tall, but like in a wrestler, line back bodybuilder kind of way. looming up behind. You catch just a hint of like pointed ears and this like deep bronze tan skin. And a huge hand grabs the side of this guy's head, and as he brings him down towards the ground, the guy, this tough that he has grabbed, right before he hits the ground, he flickers and is instead suddenly falling from like 30 feet up in the air. And he falls on top of the other two with a some unfortunate crunches. And there's another flicker, and the dog sort of like walks out of a shadow next to the kid. And the kid wipes his hands and drops his wrapper, stands up, and you can see sort of a general vibe of let's go. And there's a hesitation, and he looks at the dog, and then he sort of nods his head, and he picks up his trash and puts it in his pocket, and then they flicker and disappear. And that's where we'll pick up next week. I'll go ahead and cut off our recording.
Recording stopped.
If you are watching online, you should know that Cyrus, who is John Bryant, and myself, Colby Whitaker, have several releases on DM's Guild, including a fresh subclass from John, which is the Oath of Scales, was the final name?
I went with Oath of the Dragon.
Oath of the Dragon, which is a draconic-themed paladin, so some awesome dragon powers. And hopefully tomorrow morning, I am dropping Ilkob's Cruel Curses and the Curse-Bearer Fighter. So those will hit early in the morning, if I'm not dead of allergies by then.
We hope.
Yup. All right. Well, to all on the internet, have a wonderful evening. And we will see y'all next week.